And no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. 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 And no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
People in power, whether red or blue, they could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan arise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan arise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long gone. Texan arise, don't you hear your call? Save your country, for it's long gone. our tax dollars, and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texas in a rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. Texas in a rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texas in a rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texas in a rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's me, Daniel Miller, and it is time for our late night coffee talk, right? Where once a week we get together. I take a break from work, grab a cup of coffee, and decompress a bit. And we have a little discussion, right? You ask me questions, I give you answers, I talk about what's going on, what's on my mind, and and I missed it last week. I told you it was going to happen, right? I told you that I was going to be gone last week, that I might, just might, be able to live stream from the meeting, but alas, I was unable to. So, you guys got a week off, and let me just go ahead and say thank you so very much for everyone who reached out that was concerned. I mean, I got legitimate emails and phone calls of people that were concerned that we were gone for a week. And so thank you all very much. Your concern is quite touching and appreciated, although unwarranted. I am okay. Nothing terrible happened. And in fact, I was out and about in Houston speaking at a meeting of the Southwest Pachyderm Club. It's one of the affiliated Republican clubs. And James Pressler over there, he invited, some of you guys probably saw him. He was doing a lot of work for the Huffines campaign. He's doing some work for Paxton's campaign after the primaries. And he's one of the head knockers over there. And let me just go ahead and say thank you to James for being so doggedly determined to get me over there to speak. And thank you to everyone who came out. It was a great turnout and really enjoyed seeing everyone there. Lots of TNM people, a room full of people that were ready for Texas independence. So it's always a good evening. As it says at the bottom of the screen down here somewhere, share this live stream. Go ahead and share it wherever you are watching. If you are watching on either of the YouTube pages, YouTube channels, go ahead and like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Additionally, on the TNM's chat, on the TNM's YouTube channel, if you do a chat there, you have an opportunity to super chat. 100% of the proceeds go right to the TNM and go to the work of the TNM. Contrary to that family trunker that decided that he wanted to attack me on Truth Social today, who absolutely does not understand how campaign finance law works. It's like, you're just getting rich off your campaign donations. It's like, dude, that's not how it works. Well, how do we know? Well, go to the Texas Ethics Commission and go look at the campaign finance reports. Well, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not going to give that guy any oxygen. But anyway, super chat, 100% of the proceeds go right to the TNM. And of course, if you want to donate directly to the TNM, head over to tnm.me/donate. That is tnm.me/donate. If you're watching on any of the Facebook pages or any of those other things, do the things, right? I'm not going to roll through all of it. Do all the things. Like, share, comment, retweet, whatever. I don't know all the things. I can't keep up with all. There's like 27 different social media outlets, and we're streaming, it feels like, to about half of them right now. As a matter of fact, I think we're on our Roku channel right now, and we're testing something out. Spoilers. And I just got a message a minute ago from our executive director, Nate Smith, that it is indeed working. So one more surprise on the horizon, and we'll talk about that maybe in a little bit. We'll start describing some things that are on the horizon. Also, before we get going tonight, I have to send a very special thank you to Will and Olivia Schreiner, who came out to that meeting in Houston. And Olivia handed me care of this, right? Right, this gift bag. And contained in the gift bag, not one, but 2 bags of coffee. I was very happy. And I got to tell you, it's super great. This is not sponsored. This was a gift, right? This is not a sponsorship. So don't have to put sponsored content on here. But I got to tell you, I don't know if you can read this label. It's probably blurry if I get there. But let me just tell you what this one says right here. 200% caffeine assault. I don't know how they do it. It's a miracle of modern science, right? But I got to tell you, this is some coffee that is right here. It's roasted right in Houston. So Seabrook, says Old Seabrook. So very, very, very good coffee. And I am enjoying a cup, obviously, of the 200% because I'm going to tell you, I am burning the candle at both ends. And I feel like I've whittled out a piece in the middle and lit the wick on fire there too, because we're busy. I mean, we're just ridiculously busy. There's no other way to describe it. And so, Will and Olivia, thank you so much for sending me some fuel to keep me going. Let's go win, right? Caffeine fueled and all. Just a reminder, I will be taking your questions tonight. As a matter of fact, I suspect your questions are going to take up a tremendous amount of our time together tonight. And if you're commenting on any of the Facebook channel, Facebook pages, or the YouTube chats, we see those. The chat aggregates in a window. Kara is watching it for me tonight. And so if you have a question, make sure it's concise. Make sure it actually ends at a question mark. And it's something that we can reasonably get to in this amount of time. And frankly, we've had some really, really, really good ones over the last several weeks. And so I can imagine being off a week, you guys are probably pent up and have a lot of questions. And I'm going to tell you tonight. Oh, and on the screen, if you have questions, you can email them as well. coffeetalk@vtnm.org. That's coffeetalk@vtnm.org. I suspect that many of you are probably anticipating me to dedicate a big chunk of the hour tonight to uh, policy discussions and debates surrounding what happened in Uvalde. And I'm not going to lie. It is the whole situation has weighed heavily on my mind since news broke yesterday of the horrific tragedy that took place. I cannot imagine, as the father of six, I cannot imagine the pain and anguish that those parents are feeling right now. And the officials there in Uvalde that had to respond, and the officials that are there, whether it's first responders or law enforcement or whoever, administrators at the school, second guessing all their decisions. Anyone who ever had contact in the past with the shooter, second guessing themselves, wringing their hands. Now is the time for us as Texans to come together. It's time for us to grieve. If you're as affected emotionally and mentally by this as I am, if it's weighing on you, understand that you're perfectly justified. We live in a society right now where things like this are possible. And while the Beto O'Rourke's of the world and many others are quick to jump on this and turn this into a political debate, we have to understand that as Texans, we have to grapple with something that is effectively a wound on our collective consciousness, something that hurts every single solitary one of us, and especially so if you've ever been a parent to a young child. As I said, I cannot possibly imagine the anguish that those parents are feeling tonight. And so I just want to say, on behalf of Kara and I and the rest of us on the team here at the TNM, our hearts break with you. We are praying for you, and we continue to work for you. And we will do everything in our power. And I wish we had more of it to do something about it, but we'll stop this. But I will say this: I'm not going to consume tonight with policy debates or critiques on particular policies or politicians, other than to say that today was proof positive that Beto O'Rourke would crawl over his own mother's grave to score political points. And what he did today at the press conference was despicable and disgusting. But it's exactly what we saw with him out in West Texas at the previous shooting. So it's not shocking and surprising. But I would warn against everyone: do not politicize this. Don't politicize this. Now is not the time. Let's grieve, and then let's talk about policy afterwards. But that being said, understand that the other side is wanting to utilize this as an excuse to take away and encroach upon our rights. And for that, we will never sit by idly. We will do everything we can to protect all Texans and to ensure that all Texans have an opportunity to protect themselves. But we will not, no matter how much we are hurting, no matter how much we are grieving, we will never surrender our right to keep and bear arms and to defend ourselves from criminals like this shooter. So be vigilant, my friends, but grieve and do so rightfully, and support those parents that are hurting so much in that community. There have been some funds set up to donate to the families there. I mean, you cannot imagine the expense that they're going to have to go to bury these children. But if you have an opportunity to donate to one of those funds, please do. I will. I'll leave my comments tonight at that, because while there is a tendency to strike back with words, understand that there will be a time moving forward where we're going to have to step up and defend, and make sure that we are not taken. This situation is not taken advantage of. I hate it when politicians do that. I hate it when political advocacy organizations do that. And I hate that people like us have to step up and to defend the very fundamental rights of life, liberty, and property when things like this happen from folks that would use this to gain political capital. So we'll save that for another time. But please join Kara and I and the rest of the leadership team in praying for these families, praying for that community, and praying for any of the Texans that were affected by this. Everybody has family, and they may not just be in that community. So I wish I could be. I wish I knew how to say the right things. I wish there were some magic words. There are not. But just pray for these families. Just pray for those parents. They should never have to deal with what those parents are dealing with. Okay, friends. There's a lot. Since you and I last spoke, we've had a tremendous couple of weeks. As you can tell, perhaps I am a little tired. We have been exceedingly busy, and let me go ahead and also give a shout out to Harrison Hill over there with the American Journal. We did an interview. If you search for it, I think it's on Rumble, maybe it's on one of those, but Harrison did a phenomenal interview. If you have not seen it, I would love to replay it here, but I don't have it loaded in the queue. But it was a great interview, and it's great to be able to interview with a host that is so legitimately excited about the opportunities that Texit brings, right? Understanding that so much of these problems, every single problem that we face, has its origins somehow or is facilitated somehow by our relationship with the federal government, whether it's the fact that we overpay anywhere from $103 to $160 billion annually into the federal system, and we don't have that money here to do things with that would solve problems for us, or whether it's ridiculous federal policies, or whether it's the cultural shift that's being I think, orchestrated or facilitated by a federal government, hand in hand with a media that has become little more than statist propagandists. So, it was great. It was a great interview that we had, and I was just super excited to be able to do it. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we pretty much interview with when we pretty much will do an interview with anyone. As a matter of fact, I was reviewing some material for an internal course that I'm working on for leadership in the TNM related to spokespersons and media and things of that nature. And I came across an old interview that I did many, many, many years ago on KURV down in the Rio Grande Valley with a guy named Colonel Ray. And, they always start off and act like they're going to be friendly. And man, that thing went pear-shaped in a hurry. So I was actually listening to the audio of that and thinking, these sometimes can get really, really squirrely. All right. All right. So let me do this. Let's start taking some questions because I just want to be with y'all tonight, right? I missed y'all last week, and I just want to hang out with my fellow Texians tonight, if that's all right with y'all. So let's start taking some questions. Oh, and be sure to get your questions in. Look, drop me an email, coffeetalk@dtnm.org, or drop your questions in chat on the Facebook pages, or not Facebook groups, but Facebook pages, or in the YouTube chat, and we'll get them, and Kara will vet them, and she'll stick them up here on the screen. I can't ever keep up with all the chats. It just scrolls too fast. So let's take it. Here's Deborah. She says, "Hey, Debbie." She says, "Daniel, when aren't you burning the candle at both ends? When I crash." you know, when I crash. And here's what's funny. Here's a little secret for you. And Kara can attest to this. I actually work in my sleep. No, I don't dream that I work, but I actually work when I sleep. So, like, if I'm working on a project and I'm processing something and trying to figure something out, uh, that will go on while I sleep. And when I wake up, I'll bolt out, pour another cup of coffee, and start writing notes, typing, working, whatever it is, because all of that I processed while I slept, I got to do something with. And so that's what I do. And for those of you who don't know, kind of like that weird guy on True Social today, by trade, what I do to earn money is I'm a technology consultant and a web developer. Right, so that's what I do. I've been involved in tech since the 1990s, and so I think like that. So, frankly, when am I burning the candle at both ends? Never. Pretty much never. Oh, mercy. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, here we go. Here's a question from Joe. Can we please go back to the gold monetary standard? Interesting that you say that. Interesting. Okay, sorry. There's another one that strangely came in via chat, and I don't know why. Different chat. Joe, that your question is actually one of like a lot. We've been getting a lot of questions about monetary system and all that. Hang on. There we go. All right. So we've been getting a lot of questions about about monetary system, about post-exit monetary policy. And in fact, I've been seeing an awful lot of those. I've been getting a lot of those actually kind of out on the road, right? So at these speaking events, there have been a lot. As a matter of fact, when we went to the launch of the new meetup in Nacogdoches, or kind of seeding that one in Nacogdoches, I had a long conversation ahead of the meeting with a gentleman specifically about this. One of the questions that came in last week via the Coffee Talk email was about the Goldbacks, which I think we may have talked about those on here like post New Hampshire trip last year. Anyway, there's a lot of discussion about it, and we've talked about it off and on several of these. So Joe, I would love to have a big long conversation about going back to the gold standard or monetary policy, but ultimately, and we all need to understand this, is that the beautiful part about Texas independence is we get to work that out, right? As it stands right now, as part of the union, we are effectively part of an absolute currency union. Okay. And so the challenge is that we can have all these ideas in the world. We could develop what is in your mind or my mind or everyone's mind, the perfect monetary system. But as long as we are in the union, there is absolutely nothing that we can do about it. Now, are there steps that we can take between now and exit day? Absolutely. I've talked about it plenty of times in relation to the Texas Gold Depository Act, that there was a provision in there that escaped the notice of most people that called for the creation of a system of electronic transaction denominated by deposits of precious metal in the depository. I mean, so that is effectively a start for an alternative currency or an alternative monetary system that's based on precious metals. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way we should go. I'm not saying that's the way we're going to go. What I'm saying is that the gap between where we are and where we need to be is not that large, right? And additionally, it's going to be ultimately up to the people of Texas, but only if we tax it. Only if we tax it. Until then, you are going to be permanently tied to the printing press of the Federal Reserve and their inflationary monetary policy and all that other nonsense. It's going to happen. So text it if you want to have sound money. And if you don't care about sound money, stay with DC, right? Because that's what you're going to get shortly before it falls like a turd from a tall horse. So thank you for that, Joe. I appreciate that. We talk a good bit about monetary policy. As a matter of fact, there's a little blurb about it in here. I talk about it in the Texit book. You can also find some discussion about it at texitnow.org. Let's take a look. Here's another one. Here we go. Here is our question from our man, Chris Powell. Chris says, Daniel Miller, that's me. Did we for sure get a booth at the state convention? Chris is referring to the Republican Party of Texas State Convention. And yes, absolutely. We finally got approval for a booth. And we are absolutely going to get it. You guys, everyone should be getting an email very shortly related to the convention. And as a matter of fact, if you're a delegate, you're going to get doubly blessed because we're going to be holding a special webinar, a briefing for delegates to the convention to answer all the questions about the Texit resolution, anything that they want. And then of course we're going to be doing, some special prep for all of our delegates, but we have gone through, and you would be surprised at how many delegates that we have already identified, how many of our supporters are delegates to the convention. And I tell you what, maybe next week we'll have a contest to see who can guess the number. But we've still got some communicating and matching to do. But I will tell you, when we ran the report of how many delegates or TNM supporters, I was stunned. I was a little stunned, and I think that number may still be a little bit short. So, going to be fun. So, Chris, thank you for your question. Yes, and be on the lookout for an email and more details about the booth and what the TNM is going to be doing there. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a big presence at the convention, and I think we're going to be doing an off-site event as well. So it should be fun. Okay, be sure to get your questions in, folks. Drop them in the chat or drop them via email at coffeetalk@thetnm.org. And look, let me remind you, share the live stream, right? Let's go ahead, blast it out there, do all the things that you need to do. And if you need to know more about Texit, head over to texitnow.org. If you're just joining us, have a lot of Texit questions. You can head over there and get answers to the most frequently asked questions. All right, here's a question that has come in via email, right? Through the Coffee Talk email. I can't put it up on the screen, but here it is. This is from none other than Jack Reynolds, PhD, our TM economic advisor. Hey, and let me go ahead and take this opportunity to sing the praises of Jack Reynolds, Dr. Jack Reynolds, that PhD, right? Our economic advisor. Jack penned an article almost, God, I don't know what, 2 years ago, Jack, essentially predicting what is happening with this inflationary monetary policy, right? I mean, if you go read the article, and it's floating around, but if you go to tnm.me/news, and you'll find the article there. It's in the economic, I think there's an economic tab, but if you go there and read that article, understand that he nailed it. He stuck the landing. Okay. And this is kind of what I tell people, like when we talked about in 2019, The 2019 and 2020, when we talked about the issues with electronic voting machines and what happened at DEF CON, right? I did a whole thing about that a couple of weeks back. We were ahead of the curve, like way ahead of the curve, on so many of these things, and the doc stuck it. He stuck the landing on this. So just a cautionary tale here. If we put some things out and they may seem a bit on the edge, understand that our record of being right is hovering about close to 100%. Okay. So it would behoove you to pay attention. That said, let me look over here and let's see what Jack says. He says, I know you've talked about this some, but would you mind speaking again to how the TNM helps members who run for public office? I'm seriously considering a run for a seat on the Board of Trustees for the Tarrant County College District in early 2023. Okay, so this actually gets down to what our effort is related to the Take Texas Back campaign. Okay, so to rewind the clock a little bit, back in 2012, the TNM participated in a group, a coalition of organizations that ran a slate of candidates in the Republican primary. I was one of those because I firmly believe that you should never ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. And so we fielded candidates as part of this effort, like 35 overall. And it was our first dip into the pool of that aspect of what we were doing. So that was 3 years after we had engaged the Texas legislature for the first time. And we learned a lot of lessons from it. And then fast forward to this last, I guess back when Kyle filed House Bill 1359. There were two things that we said. We said, look, if you don't represent us, you can't represent us. And we set a goal for the TNM that from that point forward, we would challenge. Our goal was to challenge every race, every cycle, and fill it with a TNMer. Now that's a tall order, right? Not something you're going to do your first cycle out, but lo and behold, we did great. We had in the cycle, I think we ended with a little over 100 candidates, and the effort is still going. So it's one of the reasons I ran for lieutenant governor. I was asked to run, but it did not hurt that it helped set a leadership example for many other people to go run and to sign the pledge. So we launched a website called TakeTexasBack.com. And if you're there, if you go to taketexasback.com, we have a pledge, but we also have a form that you can fill out if you want to run for office. If you fill out that form that you want to run for office, okay, so some people just sign the pledge, right? Which is they're saying, hey, I got this. But if you want to run for office and kind of like where you're at right now, Jack, where you're not sure what it's going to take, you don't know how to start, whatever, go fill out the form on the running for office section on taketexasback.com. And what that does is it sets off a process, right? Where we get you in the hopper, we start looking at, kind of hit you with some information. We find out if you're really, and this is not necessarily directed at Jack, but really in general, we find out if you're actually ready and prepared to run. And, we give you some things to do, some exercises right out of the gate to really gauge how serious it is. Because the last thing we need from a TNM perspective is a bunch of non-serious candidates, right? We want everyone to be serious to run and challenge them all. And some races are probably going to be more winnable than others, given how the districts are gerrymandered and how the electorate is. But if we don't challenge these people at every turn, then it just becomes passive acceptance and acquiescence, right? So again, so our goal is every election, every cycle, every office, we want to challenge. So Jack, just reach out, and frankly, for anyone else, right? You can head over, and I don't have a nifty little graphic for that because that just came in. But if you want to know more, head over to taketexasback.com and do that. Click that link for running for office. All right, let's see where we're at. Man, you guys are getting the questions in there. Okay. Oh, man, there's a lot. You guys are doing great tonight. A lot of good ones tonight. All right, let's take this one. Bryce says, Daniel, if Texas would have successfully seceded from the Union, would the USA allow Texas to leave peacefully? Well, it's not a would have successfully. It's that's what we're going to do is we're going to put it to a vote. We're going to win that vote, and then we'll work through the process of withdrawing. But it's interesting because I had a gentleman ask this question as the last question at that meeting of the Pachyderm Club. And I mean, it was like, I literally said, they were getting ready because I knew what the time was. They're getting ready to kick us out of the room. It's like, okay, look, I have time. I'll take one more question. It's got to be a short one. And it was something like that. And of course, he wanted to argue about the answer, because you only have a certain amount of time. And I would have loved to have taken him on the journey and explained why this idea of the U.S. not allowing, you have to excuse me, I'm having a reposition here from a little back issue. But it's, I would have loved to have walked him through the way I've walked so many other people through, right? The overwhelming evidence. So let me just take this from a different perspective, right? And I've talked about this on here before. Talk about it on texitnow.org. I talk about it in the book. I've answered it at more Q&As than I can possibly count. But let me just reframe this, okay? I want everyone who is thinking about this to sort of flip the script, very much like we did about Texas. If Texas was already an independent nation, would you vote to join? Right. So we're going to flip this around, because what people come to us and they go, well, tell us what your rationale is. And we go through and, we tell them, the half the military supports a state's right to withdraw from the Union. That's third party polling, not us. We talk about 70 years of foreign policy. We talk about the constitutionality and legality of it. We talk about the impact, the negative economic impact on the United States, how it would effectively force other states to withdraw without having a referendum. We present this mountain of evidence. But think about it this way. Someone who thinks that's going to happen, what evidence do they present to show that would happen? Right? What is their evidence? Now, invariably, they will go back and they'll say, well, that's what they did back in the 1860s. Well, come on, people. It's not the 1860s anymore. If your evidence is that old, then it's not evidence, right? That's not evidence. So what other evidence do you have? I'll wait. You see, it doesn't exist. The rationale, the evidence that we have that predicts the federal response will not be military is overwhelming in comparison to the evidence of the fearmongers, right? Which has an expiration date of 1865 on it. It's like, come on, guys, really? Did your world stop? Is that when the world stopped spinning for you? So I would encourage you, Bryce, to go check out the website. Go to texitnow.org. I just kind of bullet point off 4 things right there, but there are so many. There's so many. I would say indicators that say that is not the road that the federal government wants to go down, and probably will not go down, because they know what we know, right? We're not privy to some secret information that says that they will be dissuaded from this. They got the same information set that we do, and they know what will happen if they go down that road, and they know that it's a road that they cannot go down, because it is a road that there is no coming back from. It would shatter what remains of the United States, and they can't do it. So check that out. And Bryce, thank you so much for the question. Let's see where we at on time. We're doing good on time tonight. Okay. Let me do this before I throw another one up there. I will remind you, if you do have a question, go ahead and drop it in the chat there in YouTube or on the Facebook pages. Be sure it is answerable, brief, right? A brief question, and ends in a question mark. That helps us find it. Or you can drop your question to coffeetalk@thetnm.org. That's coffeetalk@thetnm.org. All right. Back to the questions. Okay. This is an interesting one. Melinda says, when Texas happens, will doing away with open primaries be a priority? Fun fact, Melinda, Texas literally has nothing to do with whether the primaries are open or closed. That is a function of existing Texas law under the Texas Election Code. And there have been rattlings and rumblings from the political parties that they may want closed primaries. We saw it several years ago during Operation Chaos. I think that was 2010, right, in that cycle, where there was a big push to cross over, for Republicans to cross over to the Democratic primaries and really disrupt. And so, you've seen it in some races where, as a matter of fact, I think most notably recently in the Drew Springer, Shelley Luther race, where Springer's camp reached out to, I think, BLM and some other Democrat operatives and got them to cross over into the election. I mean, it regardless of what happened there, what came after that was another outcry for closed primaries, right? To basically say, look, declare your membership in the organization before you vote. And I think, really and truly, the political parties are too ingrained in the Texas Election Code. I think they are so far into the system, they're grafted into the electoral system here in Texas, that it becomes sort of a give and take, right? They are effectively protected by ballot access laws that knock potential alternative parties out of the boat. But on the other side, because they have become grafted in, they have become controlled effectively by the Texas Election Code and therefore the government. Right, it's one of the reasons that your Republican Party and Democrat Party, you got to have an executive committee with two members from every Senate district. One's got to be male, one's got to be female, and all these ridiculous, crazy things like open primaries. Right, no other private organization would allow you to vote for its leadership, right, or its people, without being a member of said organization. And here's what most people don't realize. By state law, here's what it takes to become a Republican or a Democrat. Some people say, well, you do it when you register to vote. Not in Texas. That's not how it works. Now, you can fill out an oath of affiliation, right? It's a form. You can fill that out. But 99.9% of people become a member of a political party under the Texas Election Code simply by voting in the primaries, right? So when people say, well, how many Republicans are in Texas? Well, you go look at what the turnout was in the Republican primary. How many individuals voted, and those are Republicans. Doesn't matter how you vote in the general election, right? That doesn't count. You can vote for anybody you want to. But what constitutes membership in the political party, according to the Texas Election Code, is voting in the primary. That's it. So, when you talk about things like, party size, It's not the general election numbers you look at; it's the primary numbers. So, it's safe to say that, and I don't have that figure right here in front of me, but I think it's what 2.1, 2.2 million Republicans in Texas. That's the number, right? That's not some number we pulled out of the ether. That is the number according to the Texas Election Code. So, that being said, it's one of the reasons we always compare our supporter counts to the official party numbers. But additionally, it's one of the reasons that we have support declaration in the TNM alongside of membership, right? To keep the two on par. So we always have a fairly accurate gauge as to the penetration of the TNM supporters into the electorate in a way that's on par with how people join political parties. So, a little inside baseball for you. Okay, let us get down to the next question. Like an interesting one here. You have to forgive me. I'm trying to look on this very tiny screen. Okay. Hearts and Minds at Home asks, speaking of the weather, were we speaking of the weather? Maybe. Does TNM have plans for policy regarding geoengineering? I know there are current regulations that allow it, but I think Don't Mess with Texas should apply to that also. This is interesting. We don't get very many geoengineering questions, weather mod questions. I'm thinking that that's what this is in particular about. So I don't really know. I mean, I tell you how I can't answer this though, because this does the TNM have plans for policy? Okay. So understand that our policies, where we stand on particular issues, all springs forth from our mission. Okay. And let me just flash that on the screen and let me remove the question so you guys can see that. This is our mission, right? If you go to the TNM's About page, you will see it. And it says that our mission is to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas and to restore and protect a constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. Now, the thing about our mission is it is a holistic mission crafted after that year and a half, 2 years of study related to independence movements around the world. And it was crafted very carefully to, number one, be very specific to what it is that we do, but additionally to make sure that we could be very clear on what policies the organization should advocate for, and the fights we need to get involved in, and how those things weigh against the issue of independence. And that's very important, okay? Because there are a ton of policies out there that and tons of fights we could get involved in. But unless there is a nexus to the political, cultural, or economic independence of Texas, or the preservation of a constitutional republic, or the inherent and inalienable rights of the people of Texas, then it's not something that the organization can get involved in. But that being said, I think that there is perhaps a nexus there with the weather modification issues, but I don't know. It's something that we'll have to explore a little bit more, and probably have to get a little more specific on, understand. All right. So let's but thank you very much for that question. Okay, here's a super chat. And thank you for this fried chicken. I love your username. And thank you very much for the super chat. It says, do you think the TNM will take a popularity hit from the elementary shooting? If you missed what I said at the very beginning, I'm not concerned about that. It's not, for us, we're out talking to the people about the benefits of Texas independence. I'm not here to politicize the shooting in Uvalde, nor do I intend to. I don't think the organization does, because we've been making our case quite well prior to Uvalde, and we will continue to make our case after Uvalde. And we will continue to be there to defend the rights of life, liberty, and property for all Texans and our God given and inalienable rights, not just of self determination, but of all the rest. And we will be there to advocate for independence at every single solitary turn. So there is no connection between the TNM and our work and what's happening that I think it will, to the point I think it will impact us negatively. But I honestly don't think we should be thinking about that right now. I think what we need to be thinking about is how we can help our fellow Texans, because that's what we do here in Texas. And I think we need to be resisting those jackals who come in from outside of Texas that want to take advantage of this situation, like some of those federal politicians are doing, grandstanding on the TV, or even some of our own homegrown turds like Beto O'Rourke. So, but thank you for that, and again, thank you very much for your super chat. All right, we've got a few minutes left, so let's get down to the brass tacks, right? If you have any last minute questions, I may have time for one more, right? So make sure you get it in. And if not, you'll have to save it, right? We'll check it over here at the Coffee Talk email, see if you guys have sent anything in. Man, I barely even got to the bottom of this cup. You guys have had me talking this whole time. Crazy. Aye. All right. Okay, waiting for one more question, and if you got it, drop it in the chat in YouTube or drop it on one of the Facebook pages, and we'll see if we got. If not, I'll start wrapping up. Well, let me go ahead and do this, and maybe, if you guys have one more you want to jam in before we wrap this up. Let me tell you, we got a lot on the horizon. As you peruse the website, you will probably start noticing a few little changes here and there. I am not going to spoil what's coming, but there are some things changing. It is our goal, and has been for a very long time, to satisfy the desire of our supporters to both have opportunities to do something for Texas independence and to build community with one another. And one of the things that I have talked about previously, and some of you may not have heard of this, is a concept first promulgated by Gene Sharp, right? And Gene Sharp talked about specifically this concept of atomization, where totalitarian regimes or systems want to keep the people apart, to keep them separate. And he referred to it as atomization, because that's how they maintain power. They separate us, they divide us, they keep us from bonding together so that we can do great things, right? So that we can challenge the power of the regime, okay? And so that being said, it has always been the Holy Grail. As a matter of fact, many of you, when you joined the TNM at tnm.me/join, you indicated in your new member survey that that's really what you wanted, is you wanted to be able to connect with people that were like you, right? That believed that Texas can and should become a self-governing independent nation. And many of us have been very frustrated by what's been happening through all these other tools out there, all these platforms. And so what we're getting ready to do, you're going to see some changes, but we're getting ready to do some things that are going to be phenomenal for each and every one of you. If you're a supporter of Texas independence, you are about to have an opportunity to do some things that you have never been able to do before. And we're very excited to do that. Hence, I'm tired. All of us are. But more importantly, it's going to come rapidly. Things are getting ready to come down the pike, starting. We've got that Republican convention, which is going to perhaps be one of the biggest political stories that breaks when our resolution hits, and with the number of delegates that we have, and all the things that we're getting ready to do in the lead up to that, and then We've got this other major project that's getting ready to hit in July. And I mean, the momentum, I mean, as I was talking with our executive director the other night, the projects, I mean, it's all coming one right after the other, just bam, bam, bam. And it just builds on everything, right? One thing after another. And so, we amazingly enough, we have got some phenomenal momentum right now. When we move from campaign to campaign to campaign, everything has just built, and it's heading toward this massive crescendo. And I got to tell you, it's going to wash up on the south steps of the Capitol come next session, and they better be ready, because if they thought the pressure that they got over HB 1359 was a lot, the pressure is either going to crush them or turn them into diamonds. But one of those two things will happen. So, look, you're going to want to stay plugged into what we're doing here at the TNM. Make absolutely sure, if you have not already, head over to tnm.me/vote and register your support. And of course, if you are not already a member, you know what you got to do, right? You know what you got to do. You got to head over and join. Head over to tnm.me/join. That is tnm.me/join. Become a member today. And of course, while you're over there, while you're on the website, make sure you go check out the local groups, right? Get plugged into a local group, tnm.me/local groups. We are onboarding local coordinators left and right. Local groups are forming all over Texas. Go look at that map. I mean, it's crazy, right? So be sure you go do that. And let me just, yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, that's right. I almost forgot. Hey, Jack, this one's for you. Head over to taketexasback.com/run for office. If you want to, if you've got a hankering to run for office in the next cycle, the campaign starts now, right? Yeah, one election cycle's over, but understand, you don't want to enter into the game late. There is no doubt about it. And looking forward to the next report from our election integrity task force. Claver actually spoke at the TNM Cypress meetup. I guess it was last week before last. And apparently just absolutely tore down. So you guys are going to want to do that. But if you have any election irregularities that you'd like to report, drop an email to electionfraud@thetnm.org. All right. Well, folks, that is it. I have got to go refill this coffee cup. And I got to refill this coffee cup. And I've got to head out and get back to work. Just another day working toward independence. I am I'm ready. I'm ready for Texas independence, because I'm ready. I'm ready to see these things, like, all of this terrible stuff that we're experiencing right now. Families not being able to feed themselves because of inflationary policies, and United States teetering on the brink of war at any given moment for God only knows what reason. And we didn't even talk about the crap that's being pushed out of the World Economic Forum over in Davos, Switzerland, that has willing accomplices in Washington, D.C. that are looking to make it official policy, or the border, or what happened in Uvalde, and the consequences of our continued relationship in a union that is rapidly failing. I'm ready for Texas independence. Ready to see Texas as a free, independent, self-governing nation again. And the promise I made many years ago that I would work for Texas independence until we got it, or until the gravedigger pats me in the face with a shovel. I am proud to say that, thank God, we are closer than we have ever been before. It cannot, for me and for many others, come soon enough. So let's go win. And I will leave you with the words of Sam Houston, who said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.